Привет.
Hello.
Servus.
Marhaba.
Hola.
Hello.
I'm inspired that there's so many people working to accomplish the same goal of creating a connected future.
By having students lead clubs on campus directly supported by Google developers, that's the best way to reach out to students.
It's really inspirational always to hear about members of the community who echo your values and echo your beliefs.
I've been listening more than I've been speaking, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because I'm just getting all these ideas.
Google, it needs to reach a wider audience and be more relatable as a company, and I think Google is one of the brands that is very good at doing that.
Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Angie. I'm leading the second event of the Intro to Firebase series. We had good turnout in the first event, and I'm very excited for this event as well. Although I will be the one leading the session today, this could not be possible without Raf and Dalton, who will be answering your questions both on Discord and in the YouTube comments today. Yeah, Raf, could you please talk a little bit more about the last event and a little bit of what we added to our website and our app this time?
Definitely. So, hi everybody, I'm Raf. You may know me from the last episode. I go to University of Redlands in California, but right now it's a little bit different. I'm at home. So I'm going to share my screen quickly to show you the updates that we've made to our website. So if you have a look on our products page, we now have the ability to click on individual shoes, and that will then give you more details about the shoes. And one other thing I'd like to mention about our website is that we've actually intentionally left a few places where there are bugs. Like over here, you can see that this shouldn't be happening. And we've done that to allow for contribution to the website. And if you navigate to...
Sorry to interrupt you. Do you, I think we cannot see your screen. Could you maybe make sure you're...
Oh, dang. Sorry about that. I'll redo that. And again, sorry about that. But we're on the products page, and each individual product now is clickable, and it brings up some details about this. But we're going to be going more into depth about this in our Firestore event. Just to show you what the bugs that we've left in, there's a few of them around the website, but Andrew is going to point them out to you. And we've done that to allow you to go to our GitHub account, and under the Issues tab over here, there is labels for good first issues. And these are issues that we think are going to be really easy to solve, and that'll allow you to contribute to our site and then possibly win some really cool DSC swag. So that's the contributing side of things. And this is just going to be extended on for each event. So we'd love to see some interaction. And then Dalton, would you like to talk a little bit about next week's event?
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm here to talk about our next event, which is an intro to Cloud Firestore and Firebase storage. These two tools are awesome for storing and sending data between your front end and back end. This is something we will be utilizing to store and retrieve images and data for our products within our site, and we're going to be going over how to implement that with our site. We will also be going over what a NoSQL database is and how we can use it. Additionally, we will cover things specific to Firebase, such as collections, documents, and how to store and access data. So definitely make sure to tune in next week because it's going to be a really useful event.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very, very excited about the next week, as well as this session as well. We want to showcase how easy it is to implement data storage and authentication with Firebase. And thanks, Raf, for showing the contribution details. We want to make it as easy as possible for you to fix our inconsistencies on the website. And yeah, feel free to contribute some code and win some amazing swag. Having said that, this is not everybody who's facilitating this session. We are also joined by Madhusha Kure, who is our program leader of the DSC. Hi, Madhusha, can you hear us?
Hey, how's it going?
How's it going?
Good. Yeah, super excited. Second session. Firebase is one of my also favorite backend systems and platforms as a service that's available. Yeah, I was curious to know how you all did. What kind of traffic did we get and interactivity did we get after last week, Rafa?
We've actually had some good traffic. So I'm going to share my screen once again, and I'm going to do it properly this time. So sorry about that. Just to show you some of the, again, features available on Firebase, we have the analytics. And what's really cool about this is we've actually included analytics in the code that we're giving you today. So although we're not going to be covering analytics just yet, you will be able to see these right now as well. So if I refresh, and if we could drop the link to our site in the chat, you'd be able to get a visual of who's viewing our site currently. But we can see in our stream view, as well as in the analytics dashboard, the people that have been looking at our site throughout the week. So we can see that over the last month, we've had some decent traction, and we can see this is probably last week. And over the week, we can track our user engagement of the site. And now that you have this in your site, you'll be able to do the same. So please share this with all your friends and family and track to see if they're engaging.
Yeah, I think one thing we covered last week was the fact that you can host with Firebase easily. So and you're welcome to share your screen. We're welcome to share your web link, app link with the rest of us on Discord, and we can go play around with it and then find any bugs that you may have on your code as well. I think we lost Rafa there for a quick second, and he's back.
Well, while we're waiting on Raf, Madhusha, could you tell everyone how people should ask questions or engage if they don't understand something?
Okay, so yeah, so the reason we keep promoting the Discord server is you're definitely going to get stuck. So let me quickly show this. And the reason we put this Discord server is there's only so many questions we can answer when we're doing this live. And welcome to do that. We encourage you to do that. However, if you ever get stuck trying to get through this, you also have the option to go into our Discord server. So the link is scrolling down there. I'll make it pop as well very quickly. And then what you should do is once you join, it's a little tricky. Once you join, you'll see the welcome screen and the welcome message. Then you go through the rules and you need to interact. That means the screen check mark. Once you hit it, it'll unlock all the other channels. And I encourage you to read our terms of services too, because this is another community and we want you to all be respectful to each other. And then you'll get to access to all the other channels we have. So we created 3 lobbies, and as you can see on the right, you'll see Rafa, you'll see Dalton, you'll see Andre. You can tag them and say, hey, I got a quick question, and join one of these lobbies. And then they'll be able to jump in. And then the beauty is you're able to share your screen. They'll be able to critique your code as they see through. I know some of you already created office hours. I believe it was on a Friday. So welcome to tap into that as well. And then also the major discussion around this topic, you'll see it on the Firebase series tab. And you also see our other content series that we ran in the past, Cloud Study Gems to Flutter to Cloud Hero, and there's a few others there. So I think that's the best way to get any one-on-one support that you require throughout the series, as well as after the sessions are completed.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to hear all your questions, and we'll probably stop throughout this session if anything comes up. So yeah, feel free to post your questions on Discord. But other than that, I think we can start off this event and show you what authentication is all about and how you would integrate it into your application. So yeah, let's jump into the slides. I think We covered authentication last session a little bit. We touched on what services and what benefits Firebase provides for you. But today, this is the agenda that we're going to be going through. We want to give you some high-level overview of what we're going to be implementing today, what authentication is, and what different methods of authentication there are. Also, we'll touch on some terminology so nobody is lost throughout the session. I will give an authentication demo, so we'll implement some sign-in functionality, sign-out functionality, as well as different providers like Google and GitHub. If we will have enough time, and we'll see how the flow goes, I will also cover Firebase UI, which is Firebase built-in user interface for authentication, which basically you don't need to even write any code. It comes straight out of the box. And we'll take some questions in case there are any in the end. So yeah, just a small recap of what Firebase Auth is. Firebase is backend as a service, and one of the services is authentication. So this service provides you with the ability to store user data on your backend as well as on Firestore. Firebase Auth supports phone number authentication, email, password authentication, as well as different identity providers, sign in and sign out. And we will see how that works in app as we go further. So I think a very important, actually, let me show you how that looks in the actual Firebase console. So whoever, if you already have a Firebase project from the last session, you can navigate to Firebase console and see your project there. If you don't have one, please make sure to go to firebase.google.com/console. And you should see the overview of all of your project there, or you should be able to create a new project in case you don't have any. But I'm going to go to our e-commerce with Firebase project, and I'm going to select the authentication tab right here. So you will see that we already implemented this on the production website. So you will see there's already some emails and users coming in, but your table will most probably be empty. And in fact, you'll probably need to enable authentication to even see this page. You will also note that there's different sign-in methods that you could select. There's email password, there's phone authentication. We will be touching on Google and GitHub on this session, but one of the improvements to our website that you can do is definitely implement other providers as well. So yeah, let's go back to the slides. I think it's very important to talk pricing as well. There's different tiers in Firebase, and we didn't quite touch on that too much last session, but I think it's very important to know that there's the Spark plan and Blaze plan, the main two plans that you have in Firebase. And Spark plan is completely free. You don't need to add any credit cards or stuff like that. But you have some limits on the data you use. And we will also come back to this when we do the Firebase Firestore event. Because there are some limits on how many documents you can write or read from Firebase. Blaze plan is basically pay as you go, but it's important to know that you won't be billed unless you cap some limits specified by different services in Firebase. So as you can see on the authentication piece, you are only limited on the phone authentication, which, to be honest, is not the most popular authentication method, and we will not be touching on that too much. Once again, if you want to explore that, you're more than welcome to file an issue on our website and create a pull request to implement phone sign-in with your own code. But you can see that other authentication services are completely free. So this is amazing. You're not limited on any usage parameters or anything like that. So next thing that is I think is important is there's a lot of abbreviations, as always, in all topics, and I think it's important to have everybody on the same page. So I will just quickly go through these so we understand what these mean if you notice them in the slides or throughout me using them when I explain things. So UID is a user identifier. If we go back to the Firebase console, you will see that each user in the users tab has a unique UID. It's basically a unique string that identifies this concrete user and all the data about it. We will touch more on that in the next session. We will be actually storing users in Firestore. We will be using this UID as an ID of the document, but more on that in the next session. Auth providers and IDPs are basically your Google sign-in, GitHub sign-in. Those options are basically providing identity as a service. So they will provide your UIDs and information such as photo URLs, emails, phone numbers, stuff like that for you. On the right-hand side, there's more coding terms, I think. So a model is something we will be implementing today. Sign-in, sign-out model is basically like a pop-up on your website. I'll show you how that looks like as we do the demo. DOM or document object model is your HTML structure. All your elements are objects on the page. And DOM is basically like the structure of your web page. I think that's a good description. Caching is a very big concern when you develop Firebase or any other server application, and we'll be looking at how to clear cache and make sure your JavaScript files update properly. But caching is basically storing some data for later reuse, not to, so for if we're talking about web, your web browser will cache your JavaScript or HTML files, not to fetch them again every time from your server. And we'll be looking at how to clear cache as we develop. And one of the most important topics is asynchronous programming. I think this is something we will be slowly going into, and if you're unfamiliar with this, I encourage you to read more about it. I will be explaining what async programming is in the next few slides, but the short description is that usually in your program, operations happen sequentially, but asynchronous programming tells you that some operations need to wait for the other operations to successfully complete their execution. And we'll see how that looks in code in the future slides. So yeah, there is two main ways of implementing asynchronous operations in JavaScript, and I want to briefly mention what those are so nobody is confused and why we are using one over the other. So before some JavaScript version, we only had .then and the .catch method that you can see on the left-hand side here. So just a quick reference of what this method does. You can see that it's some kind of a slow method that tries to fetch some data from some API. And some API might respond in like 5 seconds, 6 seconds, depending on your connection. And you don't want to execute other operation unless some API finished giving you the data, providing you the data back. So this .then call means that we will wait until getData executes, and then whichever result we get, we will do something with it. So there can be any code going into this callback function. In case there are any errors while fetching the result, we will be catching them in the .catch call and handling any errors that might appear. So, and that's like the most basic approach. You will see a lot of this in the Firebase docs. But this is a little bit older implementation, and I think it's important to understand the difference between the left-hand side here and the right-hand side. So the right-hand side uses the async and await keywords, which are a little bit more modern. The logic is the same. So these two methods do exactly the same thing. Some API will still try to fetch the data, and this line right here will wait until getData executes. and get the result from this. So nothing below this line, nothing below this line will execute before get data finishes. And once again, we can wrap this in a try catch block in case any errors appear, and we can do some error handling in here. So it looks like these two implementations, they appear to be pretty much the same in length and complexity, and it's not very evident why you would pick one over the other. In fact, they are both completely valid, and if you want to use either one, you're more than welcome to do so. But I'm going to just show you why I think the right-hand side is a little bit better and cleaner, and we're actually going to be using the right-hand side approach. So it's all the same until you get the second call. If you have another get other data in here, the right-hand side method doesn't change much. We just await for another call and get the other result and do something with both of them. But then on the left-hand side, you need to nest these .then calls. So you get other data, and then you call the .then again and .catch again. And you can see that this kind of structure is starting to get messy. Like if you compare, like even visually, if you compare left-hand side with the right-hand side looks much, much cleaner. So if this is not clear, too clear, I think we will be showing more of that. You'll see a lot of methods like this on the right-hand side in our code, and I'll be working through that again. So yeah, without further ado, unless there's any questions in the chat or in the Discord that we want to stop on, I will be transitioning into showing how all of this works in our application, for our application. All right, I'm not hearing anything, so I'm going to this computer right now doesn't have any reference of our app, so I will actually walk you through completely cloning the project and signing into your Firebase account and doing Firebase init as well. So this will be very, very helpful for you if you missed the previous session where we did this. So I'm going to go to the GitHub of our project, and if you will find this link in the description and possibly on the screen right now, if we can paste that there. Yep, thank you. So yeah, Ralph already showed you that we implemented some issues here, which you can log yourself, add yourself, or take on these. If you think you can implement this, feel free to just comment on the issue, and we'll discuss how you would do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the SSH link for this repository, and I'm going to go to my terminal and just clone this project into my folder of choice. So I'm going to use the git clone command. So you will need to have git installed in order to do that. And you can see that it's cloning into the intro to Firebase folder. So you can use any editor of your choice. Obviously, you should use the superior one, which is VS Code, but we will not judge you if you use WebStorm or other IDEs as well. I'm going to go forward and use VS Code and open this folder there. So let me cd into intro. I'm going to type in code dot. And this will open up the project in VS Code. So this right now, I'm checked out on the master branch, which is our production website. This has everything implemented. This has Firestore implemented, and this is actually something you will be working with if you want to contribute to the website. But I'm going to go forward and actually check out a different branch, a starter code for this event. So as you can see on our website here, we have multiple different branches. And last time we were checking out event 1 hosting to start up the hosting series, the hosting event. But now I'm going to go to event2-auth to check out that code. So I'm going to type in git checkout event2-auth. Let's see, that actually worked out. Yeah, so you can see that, yeah, you can see that we have less files than on the production website. I'm going to quickly go through how this works and how the project is set up. But in order to run the application, and actually that's what we're going to do first, is you would need to run Firebase init first. So we already done this on the previous session, and I don't think, I don't think if you already done this, you don't need to do this again, but just for showcasing, I'm going to run Firebase init one more time. My computer is a little bit slow today, so just bear with me. First question that Firebase asks us is what we want to include. I'm going to include hosting and emulators, since hosting is what we use to host our website, and emulators is something you use in local development to run the website on your machine. So I'm using spacebar to select these options and enter to confirm my selection. Next is going to ask me about the repository that my project is in. My project is in the public repository right here. If your the public folder. If your folder is named differently, feel free to provide it here. I'm just going to press enter. Next, a few next questions that Firebase asks us is like, do we want to overwrite index.html? Since and like other HTML files, since I pulled this project from an external repository, it already has the code, so I don't want to override it once again. So if you just click, hit enter through here and answer no, that should be completely fine. Do we have a question?
Yeah, we have one question. You'd like to know, for those who had forked or cloned the repo, how do they update the code to what we have just pushed? Andrew, if you'd like to answer it, otherwise I can take it.
Sorry, I think either me or you dropped for 1 second. Could you please repeat the question?
Of course. So Leonardo asks, for those of us who have forked or cloned the repo, how can they update the repo to have the latest code?
If you just forked it or pulled it from the repository, you should have the latest code, and you should be able to just check out different branches. If not, you should be able to check out different commits. So actually, I'm going to just show this real quick. Most probably you won't have this, but I have this nice extension for VS Code to view different commit points. So you want to be on the event2-auth and the start a code commit to have the latest code. It's also tagged with event2-start-a-code unless you if you get lost. But if you just clone the repository, you should have the latest code, no problem.
So I think he was referring to those who had forked the code last session. But if you want to update the code, you can always run git pull, and that will pull the repository that all the code that we've updated, and it'll sync your local repository with what we have on the remote.
Absolutely, yeah, that's an option as well. Make sure you check out the right branch to be in the same place as us. Thank you, Raf. So I'm going to go forwards and finish this initialization.
Do you want to share with everybody what the plugin you're using for?
Yes, thank you, Madusha. So I have multiple extensions in here, and the one I'm using is called Git Graph. I think, yeah, here it is. So if you want the same kind of view in your version control system, you can install the Git graph extension. I think that's amazing. It shows you a good visual indication of where you are in the project and which commits you have. So yeah, you can just install this one. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna finish the initialization of Firebase now. So here we want to select, Firebase asks us which emulators we want to select, and I'm gonna just use the hosting emulator. We were considering to use Authentication emulator, but it was included in a few months ago, so we didn't really want to touch on that too much because it's very, very fresh and although it's very convenient, it could lead to some unexpected results. So if you want to explore more on different emulators, feel free to ping us on Discord, and we can do that together, because I'm also very curious to include Authentication emulator, but we're just going to select hosting for now. 5,000 is good. Do we want to do emulator UI? I will answer yes, although there is not going to be any UI involved in this session. Yeah, available port is fine, and we can install the emulators now. That's completely fine as well. So that's your initialization complete. As you can see, even if you ran Firebase init and for some reason you selected something wrong and you made a wrong selection, you can always run it again. So yeah, I think that's all we need to do. Next thing I'm going to do is actually run our project and see it appear in the browser. So in order to do that, we installed the emulator, so now we can run Firebase emulator start. And you can see that we are hosting our hosting emulator on localhost 5000. So that's where I'm going to go now. And here we go. So our website is hosted on here. You can see that even the sign-in functionality is completely messed up. That's because we are on a branch where we don't have any logic of authentication or anything like that. In fact, if I open my console right now, you will see that there is a bunch of errors happening. And that is because we left out a piece where we initialize Firebase for you to fill out with your credentials. And I'm going to just quickly walk you through how to do that in case you're setting up your project from scratch. So you want to navigate to your app.js file. And this is the main JavaScript file that includes different initialization and DOM handling for our application. And you can see that Firebase config is completely empty. That's because you would need to have different configurations for your own projects. So in order to get that, you would need to go to Firebase console. I'm going to go to project overview, and in here, you can see that you can add different client apps as part of your Firebase project. So we already added the web app last event. If you want to know how to add a new app, you can go back and rewatch last session, but I'm just going to select the one that I have here and go to settings. If I scroll down, you will see that there's my apps, and if I have e-commerce with Firebase selected, it's a web app. I'm going to select config, and that's actually, you'll notice that it's pretty similar to what we have in our JavaScript. So I'm going to copy this over. So make sure to do this with your own Firebase project, because this will be unique to your instance. But yeah, if we now reload the website, we should see much less errors in here since we're initializing the project fine, and you actually can see that some logic succeeded because of that. I'm going to spend not too much time explaining how this works, because the main focus of this session is authentication. I want to focus on how to use Firebase APIs to kind of include them in your projects, but just a few things to say about how we do things here. So the main file that we will be working with today is index.html. And you will note that it has a pretty large header. We included some Firebase CDNs in here. We still have the authentication as well as, authentication CDN as well as the analytics CDN. So authentication includes the authentication API, and analytics is just for you to track your users and see what's happening there. This file is pretty big, so I'm gonna just straight away go and collapse everything in here. And you'll note that there's, in the body tag in here, there's 3 main sections. So the nav bar, nav element in here corresponds to the nav bar at the top. Auth model is actually what we're gonna be implementing. And this section right here is not very important to us since it's the shoes, shirts, bags, and hats selection. So in order to trigger this model, we can just click login, and you'll see that we already included some UI for you to save you some time not to type this out during the event. So you already have your nice UI. This does nothing. So currently all of these links will just close this model and basically do nothing. And what we're going to be doing this session is actually wiring things up and making sure everything works smoothly. So let's explore what auth model looks like. Auth model is also a giant component, but don't be afraid because it only has 2 main things that you want to, well, actually 3 main things you want to focus on. It's the 2 columns in this div columns class, and these 2 columns are actually the sign-in flow and the sign-up flow. And the controls that you can see on line 186 those are the Google and GitHub signups. So those are basically the structure of this model. I'm gonna go and I collapsed everything, and as I go, I'm gonna show different components and explain further how they work. Just to start things off, you can see that we already have even methods implemented for you. So this button right here is a close button that corresponds to the close model. And let's have a look at the method that it's calling on click. So if we go back to app.js, you will note that there is multiple handlers in here, which I will also collapse, so they fit in one page. These methods are being triggered by different buttons. Once again, they are only fetching inputs, but they are still doing nothing and will be implementing the functionality that they do. So toggle auth model that we've seen that the close button calls is actually just setting different classes on our model element to close or open it. We're using a Bulma UI framework, which you don't need to know really. We will provide you with all the UI, but if you're curious how that works, feel free to drop some questions. We might answer that in a separate session. But yeah, toggle auth model will just close the model, and that's it. First thing that we're gonna implement is actually sign up. So this is your basic flow to create a user with an email and password and store it on the authentication side of things. So it's the second column that I'm gonna expand. And you will see that it has your email input, password input, and confirm password input, as well as the sign up button. So all of this to say that it calls handle sign up, which, as you might have already guessed, is in the app.js, which has all the handlers. Handle sign up will fetch these 3 things, so email, password, and password confirmation. In case you're lost, that's the components I'm talking about. It will also fetch this errors element, which corresponds directly to this b tag right here. So it's in case we get any errors, and we will actually see that Firebase provides different errors for you to display right off the bat, and you don't even need to configure anything. But in case you want to, I will show different ways of doing that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So handle sign up, as you can see, it will get all of these elements, check that the passwords are valid, they match together, and it will call this sign up method right here. And this is actually something we will be implementing. So if you open up the auth.js file, you will see that there's multiple methods that are commented out in here, and this is actually the core of Firebase auth that we'll be looking at. So the method that we were calling previously is sign up, and we are passing email and password in here. I'm just gonna go forward and uncomment this line, and I think this is beautiful. The reason I think that is because Firebase provides you with a very clear way to create your users. It's only one call. So Firebase auth is the object that you'll see it's being used in all of these methods. And here you go, create user with email and password. Like, I don't know, as simple as it gets. Like, you just pass email and passwords. Here you go. Don't need to do any, I don't know, you need to submit anything, just one column, that's it. You will note that here's our async await flow that I was talking in the slides about. And when we are waiting for our Firebase auth object to respond, we don't want to close our model until this succeeds. So we'll try to do that in case there's any errors. We will populate our errors p tag, and you'll see how that works when I demo this. But yeah, that's basically sign up should actually work now. So before I test this out, you would need to go back to the authentication tab. And I'm going to go to the sign in method tab. So initially, everything will be disabled for you. And I disabled everything for our production website right now as well, just for the demo purposes. I will enable email and password sign in. So we got that functionality. So you just need to click the top enable check mark. If you want some passwordless sign in, you can experiment with this. We won't go too deep into that. But yeah, I'm just going to click save here, and you should see that this is enabled. So I think if we go back to our website, and this is an important thing. So we changed auth.js, as you will note. So we uncommented this line. Sometimes your web browser will cache JavaScript files and not update them, even though you updated the code in your editor. To avoid that, something you would need to do is clear the cache. And that's what I was talking about in the slides as well. So I'm on a Mac system, and the shortcut for Chrome is to update the cache is Command-Shift-R. If you just do Command-R, it's going to update the window, but Command-Shift-R also clears the cache. If you're on a Windows system, it's going to be Control-Shift-R. Another way to do this is also to go to your console view and then right-click your reload button. This will show you different reload options, and we want to do hard reload to refresh all the JavaScript. And I just recommend that you have this in the back of your brain and always Command-Shift-R if you want to refresh your page. So let's try and do this. So log in, I'm going to provide, this doesn't need to be a real email unless you actually want to test this out with your own email. I'm going to type in like a short password. If I type in not matching passwords, you will see that we get our error that we are providing. Passwords do not match. And this is expected because that's exactly the error we are throwing in here. In case they do match, you'll see that this is happening a little bit longer. So this is actually an error that Firebase provided for you. And I think this is pretty awesome because it tells you that the password should be at least 6 characters, and this is like internal backend validation that Firebase has. If you don't like this message, you can totally customize this. So I'm going to go and just show, I'm going to jump a little bit ahead and then comment another method just to show how error handling works. So actually, the next thing we're going to do is sign out. So I'm going to uncomment this real quick. You can see that this is wrapped into a try-catch block. And the error that is being thrown, in this case, it's the short password error. It would have a unique code assigned to it. So if you want to provide a different message, you can totally do this. You can write an if statement with this error code. Some messages are very, very convenient with Firebase. Some of them are quite ugly and could be confusing to the end user. So that's actually another improvement that you could do to our website, and I encourage you to experiment with this. But yeah, let's say everything is good. So I'm going to provide a 6-character password to this email. We're gonna let's actually make this obvious. And here you go. So change your password. The password. So this is Chrome just telling us that our password is probably weak because I've entered something like 123123. You will see that we printed a user instance in the console. And let me just quickly show where this is coming from. So app.js, you will notice that after initializing our app and also initializing analytics, since we want to include that as well, we will do this interesting line 21. So Firebase auth has a very convenient method for you to listen to any auth state changes. If the user was signed in or signed out, this method will be called, and it will call whatever handler you want to provide. Interesting side effect, this is also being called on page reload. So no need to call your handlers on reload of the page as well. This will be automatically called for you. Let's look at the display profile UI method and what this does. So you will straight away notice that here's our console log, and actually that corresponds directly to what we see in here. It will also go and fetch the login, logout button from the navigation and toggle their hidden states. So you will notice that we now see a profile button in here. So this is like some built-in logic that we already included for you. So you don't need to code anything yourself. But here you go. So we have this user instance that Firebase spit out back to us. And this is, apart from having a lot of confusing characters and things like that, you will notice that it has phone number that you can get, photo URL that you can get. Obviously, I only provided email and a password. So the only useful information is probably the email that we can fetch from this. But if we go back to our console, go to the users tab, you should see that here's our new user. So this table will show you which provider this new user was using to sign in. And it shows the email, since I used email and password. Here's your UUID if you, user ID if you want to use that. And it also shows you when it was created and signed in for the first time. I think this is pretty awesome. So you can just track your users like that. Next session, we will actually store some extra information other than provided in this table in Cloud Firestore, but that's for the next event. And yeah, if you go to the profile page right here, we will also see that there's some logic that's fetching user information and showing the profile page. This, to be honest, this looks ugly. We didn't spend too much time on this. We have some placeholder image. Obviously, we did not provide any when we were registering, so don't expect to see that. Email is not verified. Verification of the email, I'll go a little bit, I will go into that a little bit later. And you will see that there is a logout button. So this is the logic that is working. If we have an authenticated user, we will show that logout button. Since I already showed this method, sign out method, it is the one that is being called when we click logout. So I'm going to go and just to make sure everything works fine, I'm going to hard reload this page. And I'm going to click logout. And you can see that this worked because now we see the login button again. Our user is null since we logged out, so the new user is null. And if we click on login, we get back to this model, again. So this is a very nice flow. I think it's like basically 2 main lines of code: Firebase auth sign out, and Firebase auth create user with email and password, and that's pretty much all you need to do to handle your authentication in your app. Obviously, right now we have no real way to sign in. So if I created an account and logged out, my account is lost forever. So I'm going to go in forwards and just show you how to do that. So as you might have guessed, there is a magic method for that as well: sign in with email and password. Just to kind of go through the flow again, sign in is being called when we press this sign in button. So if I open index HTML, we're done with sign up. So I'm going to collapse this column right here and open the first one. So you'll see there's email, password, and here's our handle sign in when we click the sign in button. And if we go back to app.js, you'll notice that there's a handle sign in that fetches your inputs and just forwards that to our sign in method from the auth.js. And it also will toggle the model to close the model after that. So if I save this file, hard reload my application. And let's try to sign in with the same email. I believe it was this one. And here we go. We also get the same user. Chrome will warn us about a weak password. If you want to do some logic on like password handling, that's another improvement that you can do. We just want to show you different methods how you can interact with Firebase. If you want to improve our site, we really encourage you to do that. Not to say we spent little time developing it, but we also really want to see some cool improvements from you guys. All right, so that's your sign in, sign up, and log out in 3 very convenient methods. So we've also seen on auth state changed event, which is very, very important. In case you're lost or you have any questions, I'm going to just quickly show you a reference point you can go to. So Firebase has amazing docs for you to follow. And if you go to firebase.google.com/docs, we'll select Get Started for Web. And I'm going to select the authentication dropdown in here. So this has a lot of different options for you to explore. We are focusing on web right now. And this has various different walkthroughs for you to explore. Google sign-in, which we'll be implementing shortly, as well as Microsoft, Twitter, different providers. My favorite page is Manage Users. This is actually showing how to set users' email, get various different users. Here's our all state changed event. Another cool thing is this current user object. Actually, let me just show you what this means. In this console, we will still have a reference to the Firebase object. So I can just type in firebase.auth and then say current user. That's going to be return me the same object as the one that we saw logged out when we toggle on auth state changed. So although you can get the current user information like that, it is recommended that all different user information that you want to handle, you would use the on auth state changed event. So on auth state changed, to show you again, it will consume a callback that has a user as a parameter. So when the auth state changed, it will call whichever method this is and pass the new user to that method. And yeah, you can see that like there's different properties on this object, and I'm just going to quickly show how we use those properties. So if you go to the profile.js file, you will note that there's another onOSStateChanged call where we populate the profile with different information of the user. So you can check if the email is verified or not. You can get the photo URL, all sorts of things, display name. You'll see that this is actually, you'll see this work when we implement Google sign-in, which is actually the next topic. So I'm going to go forward and implement the Google provider. So I need to go back to the sign-in method and just quickly enable Google in here. So I'm going to click enable. This will give me my facing name and also the email of whoever created the project. I'm just going to click save to enable this.
Andre, very quickly.
Yep.
With email sign-in, how easy is it to set up email verification, for example?
Great question.
Are we going to get to it?
I'm going to get to it after these two providers, and it's very simple. I'm going to show how that works just in a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have Google enabled. So now I'm going to show you how we implemented this in code. If we go back to our app.js, you will notice that there's going to be a method. So handle sign up we already covered. Handle sign in we already covered. There's a handle sign in with provider. So this method is going to be called whenever we click the provider buttons. So let me just quickly sign out of this account. So these two buttons are the things that are going to trigger that method. So to have a look at how that happens in code, I'm going to once again open the index.html file. And we have this control section in here, class equals control, for our Google button and our GitHub button. And you'll see that on click of these buttons, we're actually handling the sign in with provider with Google and the GitHub. So these are very fragile, and these are just strings that hard-coded here for. There's all that I'm trying to say is there's probably a better way of doing this. This is a quick implementation that we came up with. So this method is going to be called with whichever provider you want to use. And if we look back to app.js, it will call a very similar method, which is called sign in with provider, and forward the provider name there. And also do some error handling if that's necessary. So let's look at this sign in with provider from auth.js. This is actually two methods in one. You will notice that sign in with provider takes a provider name. I'm just going to quickly uncomment this. It gets a provider instance, which is also a method in here. And then all it does is actually just signs in with pop-up and other magic methods that is very, very convenient for you and passes this provider instance. So what is a provider instance and how we would use that? Provider instance is something you get from the Firebase auth class, and it has multiple different providers. It has Google auth provider, GitHub auth provider, Facebook auth provider, name it provider. The two main ones that we're going to focus on are going to be Google and GitHub. So here are those same strings that we've seen on index.html. So if we want to sign in with Google, we're going to forward that string to our method. And this will return a new Google auth provider instance. After we get that in this part right here, we're going to sign in with pop-up and just forward the provider instance in this method. That's it. So you just create a new instance of the Google provider, forward it to the sign in with pop-up, and your Google sign in is ready. So I'm going to save this file and go back to our model. So let me click Google right here. This will bring up a pop-up window. So I have 3 different accounts. If you have only one account, I believe it's going to just select that one. If you have multiple accounts, you will get this very familiar selection. And if I select one of those, here we go. We're just signed in. And now if I actually go to the profile page, you will notice that this is much, much better. So email is automatically verified since it's Google, Firebase, and Google. Firebase is a Google technology. It knows what it's working with, so no need to verify your email here. You can see that my picture got fetched, and my name is also displayed in here. So this is very, very common. Just to reiterate how this happened, I already showed this, but just to show this again, profile.js file populates the profile page with user display name, user photo URL, and it checks if the email is verified or not. So here you go. Very easy, very convenient, and you get your Google sign-in straight away. You will note that when we check which user appeared in here, my account has a Google provider icon since I used Google, and I think it's very easy to see this here. All right, let's transition into probably the trickiest part, which is adding some external provider. It's going to be very, very different for the kind of provider you use. So it's depending on like Facebook, Microsoft, what have you. It's going to have different implementations for that. To see how you would implement those different providers, there is a separate page for this. And the one we're going to be going through is the GitHub provider. So once again, to find these docs, you would navigate to the authentication dropdown and then just select web. Do we have a question?
Yes, so Claire says, do we have to restart the emulator once we've updated our app.js or, in fact, any of the files?
I believe that we don't need to restart the emulator. So emulators are basically for you to run an instance of your Firebase on your machine. If we update those different JavaScript files, it means that, yeah, sure, they are updated, your site needs to reload. But as I showed, you can just hard reload your website with either Command-Shift-R, or you can right-click on the reload button again. So any of those changes should be just appearing. You don't need to restart anything. Short answer is no. Right. Thank you, Raf. So yeah, so let's just jump into setting up the GitHub auth. You will see that there's a walkthrough for you to follow, but I'm just going to show you how that's done in this demo. So the place we want to navigate to is the Settings tab in your GitHub user. And there's a lot of sections in here, but a separated one is the developer settings. So I'm going to select this. And this is the place where you add different auth applications for your app. So if I go to auth apps, you can see I already have some implemented in here, but I'm going to create a new auth app. I'm going to give it a name, something like demo event 2. So homepage URL is something that it will navigate back when authentication completes. I'm just going to select our production website. I'm not too sure if localhost 5000 will work as well. You might try that, but in case you haven't deployed the website yet, it is very easy to deploy the website. We've shown this in the last event. The thing you need to run is Firebase deploy, and you should be good to go. I'm gonna skip application description, and authorization callback URL is something we will need to get from Firebase. So if we go back to the console and select the GitHub sign-in method, in order to enable it, we would need to provide the client ID and the client secret, which I'm going to show just in a bit where to get those. They are filled out for me already because we had GitHub enabled before. It will also provide you with this handler, and actually, conveniently enough, it's going to show you where to paste this. So to complete setup, add this authorization callback URL to your GitHub app configuration. So I'm going to copy this and go back to my GitHub auth application and just paste this in here. I believe that's it. So we can click register application. And here's our auth app on the GitHub side of things. It currently has 0 users. And here we go. Here's the client ID and the client secret. So you would need to generate a new client secret in here. Just enter your passwords, and it's going to generate a new one for you to use. You can paste, so client ID and client secret, you would need to paste these into your setups. Those are going to be unique to your application, so feel free to use those. I'm going to just leave this since I already have the application set up. So I'm going to go and click Save. And here we go. So we have email password enabled, Google enabled, as well as GitHub enabled. In fact, this should just work since if you go back to auth.js, we already have this uncommented, so it's going to handle GitHub provider instance. And the flow for GitHub sign-in is exactly the same as for Google sign-in. So I believe there's going to be some differences if you use Microsoft or if you use Apple, but GitHub is very convenient since it's exactly the same as Google. So once again, we're getting the instance by the GitHub keyword, and we're signing in with a pop-up for that. Quick note, this default case is just convenient error handling in case something provided, the provider name was something we don't support yet. So it's going to just throw an error in the console saying the provider name is not supported. And yeah, we should be good to go. I will go back to our website. I'm going to log out of my Google account. Just hard reload just to make sure. Fetch the JavaScript files again. And I'm going to hit the GitHub button. So this brings up a model in here. And we get an error. And I want to stop and kind of talk about this a little bit. So what did happen right now? Like we hit the GitHub button, we got a pop-up showing up. It was kind of loading, it did not show anything else. And then it threw some error in here. So what happened is that I only have one GitHub account, so it tried to select that one. I believe if you're doing this for the first time, you will still need to select GitHub, your GitHub account in the pop-up. But let's read this error and what this corresponds to. So an account already exists with the same email address, but different sign-in credentials. Sign in using a provider associated with the email address. So what this is telling us is basically that we already signed in with Google, and Firebase is confused because you're using the same email to kind of track 2 different users, and that should not really happen. You should have only one email per sign-in. I believe this is configurable if you want to have multiple users with same emails, but most of the time this is not desirable. Like you don't want to have your 2 users with the same email. So yeah, this is basically telling us that you should not use a different sign-in method because it has the same email credentials that you already used. This is a small inconvenience, and there's different ways you could handle this. To give you some ideas, you could handle this error separately and show the user a message saying that please use Google because you already used that before. I want to leave this up to you to implement and experiment on your own. For now, we will just make do with this error. And I'm going to show that GitHub sign-in actually works. Like, this error does not prevent GitHub sign-in from working. It just means that if you used Google previously, you cannot use another provider because email conflict. So I'm going to go back to my console, navigate to the users tab. I'm going to delete my user. So if you click the 3 dots over here, it's going to give you different different options. I'm going to just delete this account. So now Firebase doesn't know anything about my email and nothing about what is going on. So I'm going to hard reload this again, although probably I don't need to. And I'm going to try to sign in with GitHub again. So we get the pop-up. And no errors. So this succeeded since it did not detect any other providers. And if I go to my profile page, you can see that although this is a different provider, I still get the image because I'm using the same image for GitHub and Google. If I would be using a different image, we would see something different. I fetched my username successfully. It did not verify email since this is not Google. Next thing I'm going to show is actually verifying email and how that is very, very easy to do. But here you go. So GitHub sign-in worked perfectly well. And in fact, if we reload the page in here, you will see that the provider icon should be GitHub for my sign-in. And here you go. So once again, you get a different user ID depending on your provider, and it shows that the provider was in fact GitHub. Fun thing, if I now log out of this and log in using Google, you will see that actually Firebase has no problem with that. So I'm going to select the same email address. And this completed absolutely flawlessly. And in fact, I will also get the email verified check mark in here. If I check the Firebase console again, you will see that Google provider overrode the GitHub provider. So now my icon right here is Google. This is because probably Firebase prefers Google provider, and that's not a wrong thing to do, in my opinion. You just need to handle other providers sign in separately. So if you already signed in with Google or already signed in with email and password, make sure to handle sign-ins with different providers separately. Yeah, that's pretty much it for that part. I'm just going to go quickly through verifying the email and resetting the password. So same logic in here. So if you will note, if I log out, let me create a new account with a real email. So I'm going to create account with my chapters email, and let's give it some password, sign up this account. And you can see that if I go to the profile page, my email is not verified. So this verify button, same flow, leads to this verify email method. So if we uncomment this, what we're doing here is we're getting the current user and we're sending an email verification to that user. So a little bit of a different flow here. Instead of calling something on Firebase auth, we're actually getting the current user and calling a method on that. But still, I think this is very, very easy to implement. We're also going to show, like, check your inbox alert in case we want to notify our user. So let me hard reload this. And I'm going to click verify. And here you go. So we got check your inbox for DSC Conestoga. I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to open my email address in here. So let me just switch my account real quick. And we got an email. So Firebase automatically handles that, sends you a default email. If I check what is in here, it's pretty standard message. Says that you need to follow this link to verify your email address. Let's check that our email is not verified. In fact, I'm gonna like reload the site a couple of times. You will see that email is still not verified, but if I click this link in here, it will show me that your email has been verified successfully. And now if I reload the site again, our email is verified. So small note, this is kind of ugly, and this is definitely configurable. We did not customize this for time purposes, but this is another improvement that you can definitely do if you want to go and customize the email for your application or our application. I encourage you to do so. Yeah, so this is very, very convenient. I'm going to log out again. And next feature is password reset. Similar to everything else, there's a method on here with Firebase auth send password reset email. Yeah, a little bit different from the verify email flow. So you want to call a method on Firebase auth and pass the email. But let me just do that. So the email that we are getting from here is the sign in email in this field. So I'm going to just fill this in. I forgot my password. I want to reset it, and I'm going to click. Actually, let me hard reload the site to make sure this works. Let's check my inbox for this email again, and we can see that we got another email. This time it says that we need to follow this link to project ID, by the way, is also something you want to probably customize to make it more better to view for the end user. And I'm going to click this link. This will provide me with a new passwords field. Enter a new password. Just save this. Now, if I go and try to log in with my new password, this works perfectly. So very easy methods. Once again, all of that. If you want to read more about other ways you want to manage your users, you can find that on the Manage Users tab. There's all sorts of things and all sorts of different magic methods that Firebase has figured for you. Yeah, how are we doing on time? Is there any questions we want to answer, or should I transition into Firebase UI? This is a question to Medusha or Raf.
I think that you could probably transition into the Firebase UI.
Okay. Okay,
seems
great.
like it's been going relatively smooth sailing.
Perfect. So yeah, for sure. Let's cover Firebase UI as well. So we've implemented everything that is in here. We've implemented our email verification. We implemented password reset, sign in with email and password, sign out, create an account with email and password, as well as Google and GitHub providers. So, and that was all very, very relatively easy to do. So now I'm going to show you how to do all that, but in like 5 minutes. So I'm going to log out from here, and I'm going to just search for Firebase UI. So the one there's some documentation about that you can read through, but the one page I want to focus on is the actual open source project of Firebase UI. This is the GitHub repository that I'm going to use, and has some description here as well. So we already have some code set up for you. There's going to be an auth UI JavaScript file, as well as a sign-in HTML file. Just to show where this code came from, if we scroll a little bit down, on GitHub, under the starting the sign-in flow, there is actually this example. So there's your different HTML setup, as well as some scripting that we extracted in a JavaScript file. So just to kind of go over what this is this is a built-in solution that comes in from Firebase to implement all of those flows for you. If you don't want to bother writing all of that UI code, and you just want to quickly implement sign-in into your application, this is the way to go. So I'm going to show what this does just in a second. So in the JavaScript file, you will see that there's some UI config. This is basically different things that Firebase UI needs for you to specify. You will see that you can specify your terms of service URL, you can specify your privacy policy URL that is going to show automatically, as well as what providers you want. So here we only use like Google and email, but including a provider is as easy as just adding an entry in here. And then you can just provide the URL where you want to redirect after the sign-in was successful. After that, we will just Firebase instantiate a new instance of Auth UI with Firebase Auth. And we're going to start the UI on some ID element in here. So this ID element corresponds to the one in sign-in HTML. You will see that it has a lot of different CDNs included. And this, once again, this is totally just stolen from here. We also included some JavaScripts that we use, but that's going to be relative for your site. And yeah, we just have like some custom styling if you want to provide some. And also this div, which will be substituted with the sign-in flow. So I think enough of me talking. I'm just going to show you how this works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the index.html page. And so we are done with this model. I'm going to collapse this completely. And the thing I want to expand is the navbar. I'm interested in the actual sign-in button, which was triggering the model before. So navbar and element will have this login and profile buttons. That profile will be hidden by default, and login right now just toggles the auth model. So instead of toggling the model, let me just forward us to the sign-in HTML page. Why not? This is an anchor tag, so I can just use an href in here. I'm going to go to src/html/sign-in. That's it. So now instead of toggling the model, we're actually forwarding the user to a separate HTML page that I just showed you in here. Let's make sure everything is saved. I'm going to go and hard reload this website again. So now if I click login, this will take me to another page. And I think this is amazing. So here's our welcome to e-commerce app. And you can see that you can basically include anything you want in here. I just included one H1 just to show you that this is configurable. And then this division right here, Firebase was smart enough to figure out what things we pass through here, what configurations we do, and then generate this division in here with a Google sign-in and an email sign-in link. And I think this is pretty awesome. All of this UI just comes for free. You have your terms of service, you have your privacy policy, what if you want to forward to that. Just to show that this works, I'm just going to sign in with Google. This is using, actually, I forgot to cover this. This is using a little bit different approach. So instead of a pop-up on the website, we get a redirect link. But the logic is pretty much the same. You get your selection of Google accounts in here. And if I select an account, it will go back to this view and then forward me to my profile page. And when this loads, you'll see that my profile is here. Everything is logged in. My user will be tracked in the Firebase console. Here we go. I think this is amazing. If you want to just start your project and have some sign-in functionality, throw this HTML here, throw this JavaScript in here, 2 minutes and you have sign-in ready. If you want configurable stuff, something custom for your website, once again, there's tons of different unique methods that you can use, which are also very, very easy to set up. And you can use that to authenticate your users. In case I forgot anything, this is everything I think you need to start authentication in your web applications. I'm going to go back to the slides and talk a little bit about some improvements that I've mentioned. So model styling. I'm not a designer myself. If you think you can make this prettier, please feel free to file an issue and we'll assign a pull request to you and have you style the model better. We want to our website to look as good as possible. Phone and other providers sign in. If you want to experiment on your own how that works, totally feel free to contribute to our project or include those providers in your web apps. Anonymous authentication is an amazing option. If you want your users, add an ability for your users to not to provide any email, but have some limited functionality, add anonymous authentication to your app. And that's very easy to do as well. And you can find more references in the Firebase docs about that. You notice that there were like multiple pop-ups at the same time when we navigated to the model page, and then there was another pop-up for signing in with Google. It's not the best user experience, as you may notice. Like, usually want to avoid multiple pop-ups at the same time. So if you want to, you can experiment. I'm just going to quickly show you what place in code you might want to change. You will see that in auth.js file, we were doing sign in with pop-up. There's also a sign in with redirect, which we've seen was used in the Firebase UI example. So instead of showing a pop-up for us, they were redirecting the user to a new page. Both totally valid methods. If you want to experiment and implement that one, totally valid. We've seen the provider conflict flow. So when we logged in with Google and then logged in with GitHub again, you saw that error message. That's not ideal. This should not just show blank error message to the user. You want to kind of prompt the user to sign in with the provider they signed in previously. I think this is an obvious improvement that could be done. And yeah, I think Firebase Auth has a lot of benefits to it. It's very easy to implement. Integrates directly with Cloud Firestore, which we will see in the next event. And I'm excited to show you how we can store our users in our database. Simple, fast, and secure. If you use Firebase UI, you will get everything for free, all the UI for free. And I think it's a pretty cool way for you to implement in your web apps. That's it for me. In case anybody has any other questions, feel free to ask those away, I would be happy to help. Otherwise, this is it.
Yeah, thank you guys very, very much. We'd love to answer your questions right now. And also, one more thing to mention is next week, we're going to be having our Firestore event. And we're actually going to pick up a little bit where we've left off here. We're going to be using the user object that Andrew was demonstrating. And that's how we're going to be saving our users within our site. And we can use that then to customize our profile page and to do a lot of other really cool functionality.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. And yeah, we will be adding the authentication storage as well as different product storage. So our app actually looks like an e-commerce app after the third event.
Yeah. At this point, if you've all been following along and you'd like to deploy your site, you can just run Firebase deploy. And then please drop your link in the Discord and in the YouTube chat. And then everybody can click on your link, and that way you can see the traffic coming in on the Firebase console. And yes, please subscribe to the Think Outside the Valley channel so that you can get all of our events in the future.
Oh, yeah, I think we're going to hang out for another couple of seconds in case any questions come in. Otherwise, we're probably going to wrap up. It's been an hour and a half already.
All right. So I think then we'll probably wrap up here. I want to say thank you very much again. Also, if you guys want to just have a chat about absolutely anything, I think that Andre and Dalton and myself would love to. It's exam times now, so if you have exam questions or some coding challenges you'd like to attempt, we'd like to get to know you and engage with you as well. So other than that, thank you very much and have a really good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
For coming.